Ever wish you had someone to tell you the truth about what it takes to run a successful business and live a fulfilling life? Well, amiguita, you've come to the right place. So grab your favorite cafecito or cocktail, your courage, and let's get to work. I'm Jenna Sabores, a therapist, business strategist, mindset coach for entrepreneurs, and a feisty Latina from Miami. And I'm determined to teach you the exact tools you need to stop settling and start kicking some serious derriere. What do you say? Are you in? Then let's get started. Welcome to Latinas Empowering Latinas podcast. Hey, amiguita. So this weekend, we went to Mass and we have our children in private Catholic school. One of the sisters was retiring. And to give you a little bit of background, I've been in private Catholic school since I was 6 or 5. I lost track from second grade on. Second grade through college, by the way. There's always been a little bit of a different energy. But the time that I remember the most is being part of my high school, La Salle in Miami, and just having such a different energy. The order that ran the school, they were Salesian. And for those of you who aren't aware or don't know, and this is just a backstory, so it's not a religious context, but they are called Salesian. And they're called Salesian because they were founded by St. John Bosco or Don Bosco. Essentially, I'll skip the whole story fully, but it was this man, this boy, who dedicated his entire life to working with children. That was the high school that I went to, was run by the order that was established by him, by his thought process, his mission to support other children, to raise them, to teach them well, to have them get along, to create community. And I really think that that's part of what has always been instilled in my heart. So anyway, we go to this event, and the reason I'm telling you this is because the school my kids are in are not run by the same denomination. And in walk-in, it was so funny. In walk-in, these 3 nuns in a white habit, and immediately, like, my heart skipped a step. And I looked at my husband, I said, "Oh, we're here. They're here. The Salesians are here." And he's like, "What?" I'm like, "Those are the nuns from my high school." And he was like, "Okay." And he didn't understand the energy, but I walked right up to them and I'm like, "Hi, I went to La Salle." And I started talking to them and they're like, "Wow, you're like full on Salesian." I'm like, "Yes, I am." The reason I say this is because they instilled and created such a community. The mission, the heart, the energy, that it's palpable. And anybody who's been surrounded by them, it's palpable. All of these nuns, and I don't know their ages, the nuns and the priests, because the order, there's the Sisters of Don Bosco, and then there's the fathers, right? One of my high school students, a couple of them actually, but one of them, not students, one of my classmates actually became a Salesian priest, Father Manny. And they are just amazing to the point where, I went to the retreats that we held, that we went to. There was something called October Leadership Retreat up in New York. I went to World Youth Day in 1997. They put a group together and we went to see the Pope. Just the energy that these people put together, these religious people, you never even felt like they were part of an order. They were just like fun, cool, young people that you can relate to. And these nuns were young. I'm not that old. They were, I think, younger than I was. And I started talking to them and they all know each other. It's a very small order. And I asked for one of my favorite nuns, I'll call them. She was my teacher, Sister Emmy. And she said, "Sister Emmy's actually in Rome." And I said, "Well, how does one get that gig?" And she said she's really good in math. She's doing some accounting over there. So Sister Emmy, oh my God, Sister Teresa, Sister Emmy, Sister Denise, there's so many sisters that I came in touch with, but I think that was the only year in my entire life where I actually loved math. I hate math. I'm horrible at math. I used to have math tutors. And that was the one year that I had Sister Emmy. And I think it was just her manner and the way that she was just so hands-on and so gentle and so tough and so encouraging at the same time. But this is the energy. So anyway, long story short was that she asked me, "Can we take a picture? I want to send Sister Emmy." I said, "Absolutely, not a problem. I would love that." So we take a picture together and she goes, "By the way, she asked me for my email address so she can send me the picture. And I said, "Absolutely, I would love that." And then she said, "LCSW, are you a licensed clinical social worker? And I said, why, yes, I am. And she said, why did you decide to become a social worker? And this is the purpose of this episode. And it's really anchoring into your why. And I really believe that our journey, our life, the things we go through are really meant to shape who we are, good or bad, unfortunately, but for the better always. And when sister asked me, I said, actually, it's a little bit of a long story, but I'll share it with you. My why when I started this was my family came from Cuba. I am first generation Latina in Miami, but my grandfathers came over and they came over in different ways. My father's side of the family, I'll tell that story. My father's side of the family came because obviously things weren't good in Cuba around that time in the 60s. My father was about to turn 13, which is military age, where you are mandatorily recruited into the military. And my grandparents didn't want that for them. They actually had a son who was mandatorily drafted, my dad's oldest brother. And they didn't want that for my father. And they were a big family. There were, I believe, 6. So one of them passed away. Then you hear all the names. There's Tia Nidia, Tia Isa, Tia Lidia, my dad, and Tia Tere, plus my uncle who has since passed away. So it was 6 of them, plus my grandmother and my grandfather. 8 people, right, find a way to come over. They came over in the Freedom Flights, and that's a story for another day I'll share. But they came over with the Freedom Flights. It was through a church missionary, essentially. And I remember my dad's story, and don't quote me on the specifics because it's been a really long time since he told me the story, but that they were placed on a plane. They arrived in Miami on Friday because that's where the Freedom Flights came. They stayed in the Freedom Tower. They were given a couple of coats and they were kind of shipped off to New Jersey because there was such an influx of Cubans at the time that they were dispersed throughout, right? There were different like host states where they would go because it was too much of a concentration for one space at the time. The story goes that my father said, we came to Miami one day, we're in the Freedom Flights, then we were shipped to New Jersey, and then I start school Monday. So there was like no downtime for him. His story, what he's always shared with me is that he had a really rough time. He said, imagine being 13 and you're shipped off to a place that you don't know, like China, and you don't speak the language and you don't know the place, and you're ripped from your home and your friends and your school and your neighborhood and your environment and your weather. And you're just plopped down. And of course, they were plopped in the middle of winter. So it was cold. He said he starts school and the first welcome he got was, and again, don't quote me on the details of the story, but that somebody kind of like went after him to like get in a fight. He didn't understand what was going on. And obviously he defended himself. That was like his first day. And he said he remembers, he was called into the principal's office and he goes, my parents were called. And here I was on day 1. And I had gotten in trouble, but it wasn't that he had gotten in trouble. He didn't make a bad choice. He was defending himself. And I remember he told me that every night he used to cry himself to sleep and he felt so lost and so alone. And my why was I wish that there was somebody there for him in his school that could help him and support him. I wish that there was just one person that would have made the difference for him. And I realized, and it was at that moment that I said, I want to be that one person for someone. Even if through my entire lifetime, I made the difference and I was there for one kid, one, that's it, one, that would be enough for me. That I would give back in a way where there was a gap in the system and I could be there for that one person too. So they wouldn't have to go through that. And again, my dad's very successful. I mean, oh my gosh, he made sure that my brother and I were taken care of, and we went to private Catholic schools and we went to LaSalle and we had the best education and we wanted for naught and everything. He taught us our strength. He taught us, motivation and encouragement, and he was there for us. But when he was young, he didn't have that. And again, his parents loved him and they wanted the best for him, but it just turned out in a way where he didn't have that support system. My why, when sister asked me, I said I wanted to be that one person. And I think you sprinkle in that Salesian love that I felt too when I was younger going through LaSalle, and the energy to the point where I met Father Steve Ryan when I was at World Youth Day in 1997. And there was such a bond because, again, this group this denomination in the church is so incredible that I'll spare you some of the details of the stories, but he was just so cool and so down to earth. Like he got us into, I remember we were in Italy, we were staying at a monastery, and the kids were, they were kind of bored. We're in the middle of nowhere in Italy. There was this basketball court / gym in the monastery, and he found a way to access it, we'll say. Everybody could have some fun. Very cool. We were at like this concert, and he was throwing toilet paper across in the crowd, but it was all for fun. And to the point where I had made such a connection with Father Steve that he actually prepared my husband and I for our marriage vows, so pre-kana, because Father Steve, we asked him to marry us, but he wasn't able to take off, and we got married in Puerto Rico. He wasn't able to make it, but we actually asked him to baptize both of our kids, and he met us in St. Karen, which is the church that was part of my high school, LaSalle, and both of my kids are baptized in St. Karen by Father Steve. So, I mean, the connection is just really deep. But the why is because of the connection that I felt when I was there. The why for what I did, and I wanted to keep doing and helping kids in schools, and that's where I started, was because of my story with my dad and because of the support that I felt and the love that I felt in the high school where I went, where I was nurtured by all these incredible young priests and nuns. That was where my story started. And then every chapter of my life, there's been a different reason for my why. Right now, obviously, it's my kids. Like, I want them to be happy and have everything they need. And I want to be there for all their moments. And I want to be able to stay home with them when they're sick and go on their field trips with them. And I want them to see what it's like to have your own business and be strong and be successful and be your own boss and make your own schedule. I want to model that for them. But after high school and when I started school, my why shifted right before I had kids. And again, same story, right? Because of the plight of my Cuban people, we, for so long at this specific part of this generation, were so held back and restricted, and everything was stripped from them. And we couldn't use our voice, right? Inside me, deep inside in the fabric of who I am, even though I was born in the United States, I still heard the stories and I felt the stories as they were told to me. And I saw what was on the news and I saw pictures, and still to this day, unfortunately, I still do. Part of me always wanted to be free, right? The sensation of this planted wanting to be free. When I was working at schools, I worked in schools up north for over 10 years. And there was this sense of, I want to be free from people telling me what to do and how to do it. And I always got my work done. My dad always told me, like, just do your job and worry about that. But there was always more that I wanted to do. I wanted to help more. I wanted to have events. I wanted to have retreats. I wanted to do all these things that felt so healing for me, for everybody else. And what I kept running into was, no, you can't do that. No, there's no space for that. No, there's no budget for that. No, there's no time for that. And I wanted to be free to do what I wanted to do. So my why led me to open up my own practice. We started off by wanting to help young people in schools, starting off my own practice because I don't want people to tell me why. I don't want people to restrict me on what I can do because, as you know, I'm constantly creating and I have constant ideas and there's always something coming up. I wanted to be free and I started my own practice. And once I realized what free felt like, and doing life on my terms and being my own boss and being in control of my schedule and my salary and who I was going to work with and how I was going to work with them and whether or not I was going to go on conferences or events or retreats or host them, that I could do it because there was nobody there to tell me no. Like, I refused to have someone tell me no. And then my why and why I'm coaching other entrepreneurs is because I want others to know what it's like. I want others to feel the freedom that they can have by being their own business owners successfully. Because there are so many people that feel like they're stuck in their jobs or they're stuck in a position where they can't grow their business or they don't know how to market it, or it's just a side gig because it can never be their full-time like dream. And it can be. My why, starting off with my dad's story and wanting to be free and wanting to help others be free. And now my kids and teaching them and modeling that for them. My why has led me to you. And the reason I've been ranting this podcast is because whether it is financial freedom or time freedom or location freedom, I want you guys to know, I want you to know that freedom is wonderful, but business is hard. It's taken so long to get to this space. So what you see now is the tail end of decades worth of learning and failing and growing and pivoting. When you know why you started this journey to begin with, and by journey, I mean your business, why you want to do what you're doing, why you want to grow your business, why you want to start your business, because there are going to be constant moments where you're failing. Like constantly there are hiccups. Just like earlier when I tried to start recording my podcast and this episode, and it was incredible. There was a diesel truck that parked next to me. There was a super loud plane that went over me. 3 leaf blowers show up, literally blowing around my car. And I couldn't control that. But I went back to my why. And my why is my message. And that's why I'm here today. And that's why I'm here talking to you. Regardless of what hurdles you face, are in the middle of now, have faced, or you know are waiting for you, when you have your why, when you know why you're doing it, and that's what that is, then nothing can hold you back because you go back to that moment. And do you think me failing or me not showing up or me not getting something done will stop me? Maybe if I didn't have my why. But when I think of my dad and the person I can help, when I think of the people in their business I want to help grow their business, when I think of my kids and how I want to model for them, there is no way in hell I'm quitting. No way. And you shouldn't either. So let's put on our big girl panties and we're going to get through this. Whatever you're struggling with right now, I want you to write down what your why is. And I want you to have that accessible. Keep it in your phone if that's easier. I want you to be able to open up in those moments of doubt. Because when you know what your why is, when that is your anchor, there is nothing that can stop you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am so excited you tuned in. The best way to find out the second a new episode is released and receive all the valuable tools and actionable steps I share is to subscribe to the podcast, so make sure you do that. Sending you so much love until next time. Bye.